In February 2018, Major Russell Washington returned to his family home in Cedar Ridge, Texas, after completing his fourth tour of duty in Afghanistan. At 42 years old, with 17 years of impeccable service in the U.S. Army Special Forces, Major Washington had earned numerous commendations, including 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star for valor. He had decided it was time to focus on his family, his wife Michelle, a high school math teacher, and their only daughter Keisha, a brilliant 19-year-old who had earned a scholarship to study law at the University of Texas. The Washington family resided in a modest 2-story home on Magnolia Street, in a middle-class neighborhood of Cedar Ridge, a suburb of Houston. Russell had purchased the house in 2005, shortly after marrying Michelle, then a 25-year-old graduate of Texas Southern University. Their daughter Keisha was born a year later, and from an early age, she displayed remarkable intelligence and determination. By her senior year of high school, she had been accepted to several prestigious universities, ultimately choosing to attend the University of Texas Law School in Austin. On February 13, 2018, the evening after his return, Major Washington found his wife in a state of hysteria. Keisha had not returned home after attending a party at the Turner Estate, a sprawling 20-acre property owned by Daniel Turner Sr., an oil magnate worth an estimated $680 million, with significant political connections throughout Texas and Washington, D.C. According to Michelle, Keisha had been invited to the party by a classmate who worked part-time for the Turner family. The party was to celebrate Daniel Turner Jr.'s 21st birthday. Keisha had promised to be home by midnight, but it was now 3 a.m., and her phone was going straight to voicemail. Major Washington immediately began searching for his daughter. He drove to the Turner Estate, where security personnel informed him that the party had ended hours ago and most guests had departed. Dissatisfied with their response, Washington contacted the Cedar Ridge Police Department to file a missing person report. Given his military background and the immediate circumstances, the police agreed to begin searching right away, rather than waiting the customary 24 hours. At approximately 4:37 a.m. on February 14, 2018, Officer Thomas Martinez and his partner found Keisha Washington lying in a ditch off County Road 34, approximately 7 miles from the Turner Estate. She was beaten, partially undressed, and in a state of extreme shock. Her clothes were torn, and she had bruises on her face, neck, and limbs. Officer Martinez immediately called for an ambulance, and Keisha was transported to Cedar Ridge Memorial Hospital. A medical examination conducted by Dr. Katrina Jonas confirmed that Keisha had been sexually assaulted by multiple individuals. DNA samples were collected, and photographs were taken of her injuries. The attending physician noted defensive wounds on Keisha's hands and arms, indicating she had fought against her attackers. After receiving initial treatment and sedation, Keisha regained consciousness at approximately 10:15 a.m. With her parents at her bedside and Detective Alicia Gomez present, Keisha provided a statement. Through tears and visible trauma, she identified 4 of her attackers: Daniel Turner Jr., the 21-year-old son of the oil magnate; Ryan Preston, 20, son of Cedar Ridge's chief judge; Jason Hewitt, 22, whose father owned the largest car dealership network in East Texas; and Michael Blackwell, 21, whose mother was a state senator. According to Keisha's statement, the 4 young men had offered to show her the Turner family's art collection in a separate wing of the mansion. Once isolated from the main party, they locked the door, physically restrained her, and took turns assaulting her. Afterward, they drove her to the remote location where she was found and abandoned her, taking her phone and purse. At the hospital, Russell Washington, still wearing his military uniform, held his daughter's hand and made a solemn promise in the presence of Detective Gomez. "I swear to you, Keisha, justice will prevail." On January 15, 2018, exactly 1 week after Keisha Washington's initial report was filed, District Attorney Gregory Palmer called Russell Washington to his office at the Montgomery County Courthouse in Dayton, Ohio. The meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m., but Palmer kept Washington waiting for nearly an hour in the reception area. When Washington finally entered the wood-paneled office, he immediately noticed Palmer's unusual demeanor. The typically confident DA appeared tense, repeatedly adjusting his tie and avoiding direct eye contact. Palmer, who had served as Montgomery County's district attorney since 2013, placed a thick folder on his desk before speaking. "The Johnson rape case is problematic," Palmer stated flatly. Despite Dr. Sandra Rivera's medical examination confirming sexual trauma and the victim's testimony identifying all four perpetrators, were facing significant obstacles. Palmer explained that new witnesses had emerged. 3 fellow students from Westfield Academy named Tyler Roberts, Brandon Miller, and Caitlin Walsh. All 3 provided sworn statements claiming that Keisha was heavily intoxicated at the party and had initiated physical contact with the accused boys. According to their testimonies, Keisha had followed the group upstairs voluntarily. The defense team, led by prominent attorney Lawrence Goldstein of Goldstein, Meyer and Associates, had also submitted what appeared to be fabricated evidence. This included digitally altered photographs showing Keisha socializing happily with the accused after the alleged incident, and manufactured text messages suggesting the encounter was consensual. William Turner Sr. pulled strings, Palmer admitted, referring to the father of William Turner Jr., one of the accused. The elder Turner, CEO of Turner Development Group, had made significant contributions to local political campaigns over the years. By January 10, Judge Howard Mackenzie had been assigned to the case, a fact that immediately concerned Johnson. Mackenzie had attended Yale with William Turner Sr. in the 1980s and was a regular guest at the Turner family's annual summer gala. Within days of Mackenzie's appointment, 2 key witnesses who had initially corroborated parts of Keisha's account suddenly changed their testimony, claiming they had misremembered crucial details. "I'm closing the case due to insufficient evidence," Palmer announced, his voice barely above a whisper. When Washington protested, citing the medical evidence and the detailed account Keisha had provided, Palmer opened the folder on his desk. Inside were surveillance photographs of Washington's wife, Michelle, picking up their 8-year-old daughter Lily from her chemotherapy appointments at Dayton Children's Hospital. The photos, taken over several days, included dates, times, and locations of their movements. The message was unmistakable. That evening, January 15, 2018, Keisha Washington consumed a fatal dose of pills. Her mother, Michelle Washington, discovered her body at approximately 8:45 p.m. in her bedroom at their home. Beside her was a handwritten note describing in detail how each of the perpetrators, William Turner Jr., Christopher Reed, Jonathan Phillips, and Marcus Hamilton, had mocked her during the assault. According to the note, Turner had recorded portions of the attack on his phone while telling her, "No one will ever believe a girl against us." The other boys had laughed in agreement. Keisha also wrote about their subsequent intimidation campaign, including threatening messages sent from anonymous accounts and peers who suddenly shunned her at school. The Montgomery County Coroner's Office ruled Keisha's death a suicide on January 17, 2018. Her funeral was held 3 days later at Greater Hope Baptist Church, attended by over 200 community members, but notably absent were any representatives from Westfield Academy or local government officials. By February 1, 2018, Michelle Washington, overwhelmed by grief, temporarily relocated to her sister Patricia's home in Columbus, Ohio. Russell Washington remained alone in the family home where he spent evenings reviewing his daughter's suicide note and contemplating his military commendations from his 12 years of service with the United States Army, including 2 Purple Hearts from his deployments to Afghanistan in 2004 and 2007. The 4 accused young men returned to Westfield Academy without facing any legal consequences. Russell Washington had seemingly vanished from his 2-story brick home in Oak Ridge, Virginia on March 14, 2019. His neighbors believed the standard story, that Washington had taken an extended leave to recover following his daughter's suicide 2 months earlier. His employer, Sentinel Security Consulting, had approved his request for personal time without question. The truth was far more calculated. Russell had methodically rented a small industrial warehouse in Roanoke County, approximately 30 miles from his residence, paying 6 months in advance under a shell LLC. The 1,200-square-foot concrete structure, previously used for automotive storage, became his operational headquarters. Here, Washington began intense physical training and preparation. Leveraging his extensive background in military intelligence and 4 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. Jason Hewitt, 21, became Washington's first target. The son of prominent Oak Ridge attorney Douglas Hewitt had been explicitly named in Keisha Washington's handwritten note as the primary instigator of her assault. According to the note found in Keisha's bedroom, Hewitt had not only initiated the attack, but encouraged 3 other participants. Washington conducted meticulous surveillance for 14 days, documenting Hewitt's routines and movements. His observations revealed that every Friday night, Hewitt drove his 2018 BMW 3 Series to the Executive Lounge, an exclusive members-only establishment in neighboring Belmont County, consistently returning between 1:30 and 2:15 a.m. via County Road 237, a poorly lit 2-lane route. On Friday, April 12, 2019, Washington positioned himself at a strategic curve on CR 237, approximately 8.4 miles from the Executive Lounge. At 1:47 a.m., when Hewitt's vehicle approached, Washington executed his plan with military precision. Using a portable LED strobe to simulate police lights, he successfully compelled Hewitt to pull over. Within seconds, Washington incapacitated him with a tactical stun device and transferred him to a van parked nearby. Washington transported Hewitt to an abandoned dairy barn on foreclosed farmland in Westmoreland County. The isolated structure, scheduled for demolition the following month, provided Washington with the privacy he required. Inside, he secured Hewitt to a steel chair bolted to the concrete floor. When Hewitt regained consciousness, Washington silently placed a laminated copy of Keisha's suicide note directly in front of him. "I know what you filmed. Where is the video?" Washington asked, his voice devoid of emotion, displaying the same controlled demeanor that had earned him commendations during hostage recovery operations. Despite his evident fear, Hewitt responded with unexpected defiance. "What are you going to do? Your daughter wanted it herself," he said with a dismissive smirk. For the next 5 hours, Washington employed interrogation techniques he had witnessed during his military career. Medical examiners would later document 17 distinct pressure points and methodical injuries designed to maximize pain while minimizing permanent damage. At 7:23 a.m., Hewitt finally relinquished the password to a cloud storage account containing multiple video files. Using a laptop with a secure connection, Washington downloaded all 37 files from the account, which included not only footage of the assault on Keisha, but similar recordings involving 4 other young women. After verifying the files, Washington terminated Jason Hewitt with a hunting knife, severing his carotid artery in a single practiced motion. He then transported the body to Blackwater Forest, a remote area popular with hikers, where he left it partially concealed under pine branches. Before departing, Washington carved a 6-word message into Hewitt's chest: "I'm a rapist who filmed victims." The body was discovered on April 14, 2019, by mountain bikers Martin and Eliza Kapoor. Oak Ridge Police Department secured the scene and found a USB drive containing edited segments of Keisha Washington's assault, intentionally placed in Hewitt's jacket pocket. Forensic analysis would reveal that the drive had been sanitized of fingerprints and metadata. Detective Tina Ridges, a 34-year-old investigator who had transferred from Chicago's Special Victims Unit 3 months earlier, was assigned as lead on the case. While cataloging evidence, Rodriguez discovered connections to the closed investigation of Keisha Washington's rape, a case that had been terminated due to insufficient evidence, despite Keisha's detailed written statement identifying her attackers. Reviewing both files, Rodriguez identified a pattern that suggested a personal vendetta rather than a random act of violence. By April 18, 2019, Ridges had assembled a preliminary profile of the killer and initiated surveillance on the 3 remaining individuals named in Keisha's statement. She suspected Russell Washington's involvement but found no concrete evidence linking him to Hewitt's murder. In April 2018, Major Russell Washington identified his second target, 26-year-old Ryan Preston, the Soul Air mid-size company based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. According to Keisha's journal entry dated March 12, 2016, Preston had given her an unmarked pill at a private party in his Boston apartment, claiming it would make her more receptive. The substance, later identified as MX490, was an experimental sedative. Keisha experienced violent seizures and temporary blindness lasting 3 days. The recordings revealed troubling activities. Kenneth Preston, the 68-year-old CEO, had bribed FDA officials with payments totaling $230,000 to expedite approval for Meridian's newest anti-anxiety medication. Documents showed the company had deliberately concealed negative test results, showing liver damage in 8% of trial participants. On May 27, 2018, Washington anonymously delivered select evidence to FBI Special Agent Marcus Coleman. This calculated move created precisely what Russell needed: a distraction. The media storm erupted the following morning, with federal agents arriving at company headquarters to seize records and computers. With the Preston family in crisis mode, Russell accessed the mansion using credentials still active from his construction work. Security footage from neighboring properties showed him entering at 9:47 p.m. He positioned himself in the basement laboratory and waited. Ryan Preston, 29, returned home at 11:32 p.m. Phone records show he received multiple calls from his father, who was being questioned at FBI headquarters. According to the recovered audio, Ryan was agitated about the company investigation, shouting into his phone, "They can't prove anything about the trials. Just keep your mouth shut." When Ryan entered the basement laboratory, presumably to destroy evidence, Russell Washington subdued him with a stun gun. Medical examiner Dr. Andrea Nguyen later determined the electrical discharge was administered to the neck at close range. The audio recording recovered from the scene captured the conversation between the men. "Do you remember Keisha Washington? Do you remember how she screamed in pain after your medication?" Washington asked. "It was just an experiment, old man. This is science. She was nothing anyway," Ryan responded, struggling against his restraints. For the next 47 minutes, Russell methodically administered injections from the laboratory's own supply of experimental compounds. The autopsy would later reveal traces of 7 different substances in Preston's system, including 3 unregistered compounds. Washington recorded Ryan's confession to drugging multiple women, including detailed admissions about Keisha's assault. At 1:24 a.m. on May 28, 2018, Ryan began experiencing severe anaphylaxis, his throat swelling shut as his airways constricted. Despite his pleas for help, Washington made no intervention. The medical examiner estimated Ryan Preston died at approximately 1:37 a.m. His final words were documented as, "Please, I don't want to die." The following morning, the Preston family housekeeper, Maria Dominguez, discovered Ryan's body still strapped to the laboratory table. Beside him was a flash drive containing not only the recording of that night, but also copies of videos showing multiple sexual assaults, including Keisha's. The flash drive was labeled simply, "Justice." Boston Police Detective Carmen Rodriguez, who had also investigated the Blanchard homicide 6 months earlier, began noticing tactical similarities between the cases. Both showed methodical planning, minimal physical evidence, and an unusual level of operational discipline. On June 3, 2018, she formally requested Major Russell Washington's military service record and was surprised by his extensive special operations background in Iraq and Afghanistan. In the aftermath of the 2 murders, the remaining participants in the heinous crime, Daniel Turner Jr. and Michael Blackwell, experienced genuine fear for their lives. By April 2018, both men had hired private security details and dramatically reduced their public appearances in Bridgeport, Connecticut. On April 15, 2018, Daniel Turner Sr., a prominent real estate developer and the 58-year-old father of Daniel Jr., organized a press conference at the Bridgeport City Hall. Flanked by his attorney and several business associates, Turner Sr. vehemently denied any wrongdoing by his son and publicly accused unknown radical elements of attempting to destabilize the city through intimidation and violence. "These attacks against innocent young men represent an assault on our community's values," Turner stated before a gathering of local reporters. "I am announcing a $250,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for these heinous acts against my friends' children." The digital infiltration yielded critical intelligence. Blackwell, the 26-year-old son of Circuit Court Judge Thomas Blackwell, had purchased one-way tickets to Buenos Aires, Argentina. The flight was scheduled for departure from John F. Kennedy International Airport on April 21, 2018, at 11:40 p.m. The night before his planned escape, on April 20th, Blackwell inexplicably vanished from his fortified Fairfield County residence. This disappearance occurred despite the presence of 3 armed security personnel patrolling the property perimeter. The security team reported no breaches of the estate's surveillance systems. 3 days later, on April 23, 2018, the Bridgeport Police Department received an unmarked package containing a USB drive. The drive contained a 47-minute high-definition video recording, showing Michael Blackwell restrained to a wooden chair in what appeared to be an abandoned industrial space. In the video, Blackwell provided a detailed confession to participating in the December 2017 sexual assault of Keisha Washington. He additionally implicated both himself and his associates in multiple other previously unreported sexual assaults dating back to 2015. Daniel and Jason said nobody would believe her because of who our families are, Blackwell stated in the recording. We've done this before. Turner Sr. always made the problems go away. At approximately 3:15 a.m. on April 24, Blackwell was discovered outside the Bridgeport Police Department headquarters. Though severely beaten with multiple facial contusions and a dislocated shoulder, medical personnel at Bridgeport Hospital confirmed his injuries were non-life-threatening. On April 26, 2018, Detective Ridges attempted to establish contact with Russell Washington through an encrypted message board frequented by Special Forces veterans. Her message was direct. I want to help restore justice in a legal way. Evidence in hand. Meeting on your terms. By December 2019, Russell Washington had methodically eliminated 4 of the 5 men responsible for his daughter's assault. Only Daniel Turner Jr. remained, the ringleader and primary instigator of the attack. Unlike the others, Turner was heavily protected. His father, Daniel Turner Sr., a wealthy oil executive with connections throughout Harris County, Texas, had relocated his son to the family's 320-acre private ranch in Waller County, approximately 50 miles northwest of Houston. The Turner estate was fortified with state-of-the-art security systems and staffed by 8 professional security personnel, all former military or law enforcement. Surveillance cameras covered every approach, and armed guards patrolled the perimeter 24 hours a day. Turner Sr. had spent over $2 million on security upgrades following the deaths of his son's former teammates. From December 12 to December 15, Russell Washington conducted reconnaissance from the neighboring property, the Hartwell Ranch, where he posed as a potential buyer interested in cattle breeding. Using military-grade binoculars, he mapped guard rotations, camera positions, and identified potential blind spots in the security system. On December 17, 2019, at 2:13 a.m., Russell triggered a sophisticated distraction. He released several horses from the stables at the eastern edge of the property and simultaneously set off a small, controlled fire in an unused storage building. The combination drew 6 of the 8 security personnel to that sector, creating a critical vulnerability in the western approach to the main house. Russell entered through a service entrance, disabling the alarm using techniques he had learned during his Special Forces training. He moved methodically through the mansion, clearing rooms with military precision. In the master bedroom wing, he encountered Daniel Turner Sr., who was waiting with a Benelli M4 tactical shotgun. "I've been expecting someone like you," Turner Sr. said as he fired the first shot, missing Russell by inches and destroying a $30,000 antique mirror. The ensuing firefight lasted approximately 47 seconds. Russell took a shotgun pellet to his left shoulder, but managed to return fire with his Glock 19. Turner Sr. sustained 3 gunshot wounds to the abdomen and chest. He collapsed near the bedroom door, still alive but critically wounded. Russell found Daniel Turner Jr. hiding in a panic room adjacent to the master suite. The 19-year-old was attempting to contact emergency services when Russell breached the reinforced door, using an improvised explosive device fashioned from materials he had brought in his tactical backpack. At 2:37 a.m., detective arrived with a tactical team from the Waller County Sheriff's Department. She had been tracking Russell's movements since the 3rd killing, gradually assembling evidence not only of Russell's vigilante campaign, but also of the widespread corruption that had allowed the rapists to escape justice initially. "Washington, it's over!" Detective called out as her team surrounded the house. "I have federal agents taking Judge Mackenzie into custody right now. The district attorney is already in handcuffs. We can make this right. The legal way." Russell held Daniel Turner Jr. at gunpoint as Rodriguez entered the panic room alone, her weapon lowered in a gesture of good faith. "You know what he did to my little girl," Russell said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You know what they all did." I do, Rodriguez acknowledged. And they'll pay for it. I promise you that. For a moment, it seemed Russell might surrender. His hand trembled slightly as Daniel Turner Jr. sobbed and begged for mercy. Then Turner made a fatal mistake. She wanted it, he whispered, thinking only Russell could hear him. Tell him, detective. Tell him how she… The gunshot echoed through the room at exactly 2:42 a.m. Ridges' scream came too late. Daniel Turner Sr. died from his wounds 3 hours later at Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston. Russell Washington's trial began on April 7, 2020, and lasted 11 days. Despite public sympathy, a poll showed 64% of Texans believed his actions were justified. The jury found him guilty of 5 counts of first-degree murder. On April 28, Judge Caroline Maxwell sentenced him to death by lethal injection. In his final statement to the court, Russell Washington stood straight, still carrying himself with military bearing. I took an oath to protect the innocent from all enemies, foreign and domestic, he said. The system failed my daughter. I did not fail her. Detective Ridge's investigation continued after Washington's conviction. Her findings led to the conviction of Judge Robert McKenzie on charges of bribery and obstruction of justice. District Attorney Philip Calder received a 15-year sentence for similar charges. The surviving member of the assault, Trevor Blackwell, was retried and sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole.